Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Sunday to you and your family. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. And of course, staying safe and calm and collected in this unique environment, right? Because we've seen some nothing but green over the last 24 hours. And I just want to, exercise some caution here today, or insist that you do as well, because it's a weekend. We got to recognize that weekends have a tendency of increasing because a lot of whales are not manipulating the market. All right, so again, that is something you need to know, but we'll go ahead and look at that and much more and effectively help us understand best practice, big picture, the whole 9 yards. If you're new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor, I just love teaching people how to trade. So if you can learn something here today, it'd be fantastic. Love to hear that. Feel free to comment below if you do. If you want to become a better trader, more consistent, CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. I have a trading academy, community, and signal group. If you're curious about how to, get on track, so to speak, with those things. We've been taking some really good profits to the downside here recently with some shorts in the last 48 hours. Now, there's a good chance, and we'll go ahead and see this here soon, that we could get a rejection of this trend line, and if so, it'll continue to go lower. But we're not there yet, and we'll see what that looks like. So here we are. First of all, with the daily, standard stuff here, we got a really large line here. And keep in mind, that's concurrent with the 50-day set moving average. That is effectively telling us that the price action isn't bullish or bearish, essentially, at this point. It's kind of testing that level, so to speak. As you can see, a lot of volume right in this little channel here. Okay, so the reason why that's not bad is the fact that we are honoring that trend line, but it's also disadvantageous because we don't have full-on confirmation we've broken above. All right, so we're kind of in that little in-between state. And it's not to say that once we break above this, it's just going to take off. It just tells us that we're no longer making lower highs. And no longer making lower highs is a transitionary thing that you want to identify to help us understand that we may be transitioning into a range-bound / ascending type of market, all right, which are more positive and easier to trade than they are when you are having a bearish type of quality, I guess you could say. So again, that's basically where we're at there in that sense, just kind of give you perspective on what this big line is. These smaller lines, we'll look at that in a shorter time frame, of course, but those are more recent trend lines in this descending type of pattern. Okay, so again, you could argue that it's just consolidating before it breaks out. That's absolutely true. It definitely could be doing that, but once again, we don't have confirmation. So why take a trade if you don't have full-on confirmation? And again, confirmation comes in a lot of different shapes and forms, so just keep in mind, there's a large list of criteria that needs to be met in most cases. So for me, honestly, I try to look for specific closures above key level resistances and consolidation patterns, and of course volume as well. But besides all that, right, why don't we just go ahead and look at some of the obvious and work our way down, because that's really what we have right now based on low volume and low volatility, or increased volatility rather, based on the low volume over the weekend, right? So the price will move faster than it needs to with low volume because of the fact that there's not a lot of resistance in some cases, right? So weekends can commonly be green because of the fact that the whales are not taking their profits yet. So that being said, today being a green day could be a false positive, but it could also be the start of the next push and leg up. All right, so we got to kind of look at all angles here. That being said, RSI between 50 and 70, perfectly fine. It hasn't come down to test 50 just yet. If it does, once again, that's right around the 21,600 mark. So 21.6 is a likely candidate for a retest, just based on it being the most recent high. Okay, so it could be the new low, effectively, if it were to come down any lower. So a good long position for me, I would like to try to take position around 21.6. That seems sensible. Again, we're not there yet. We'll figure it out when we get there, but for the moment, if this descending trend continues, that would be a likely target. Now, between now and then, we want to take a look at a few other things. We got the MACD still converging. It's been doing this for a little while now, so honestly, this is, it would make sense if it starts losing its momentum. So in a sense right now, that MACD isn't really telling us a tremendous amount, but it does kind of just give us the general sense that the trend is overall moving upwards, which is consistent with these ascending type of trends. We're making higher lows still. So until we make lower lows on the daily, we're going to be in pretty good shape. Okay. So for now, this larger ascending type of trend that we're seeing is a positive one. Okay. Looking at the 4 hour though, here's kind of what I wanted to talk about with this descending type of trend. You can just kind of see this trend line here and the trend line here, the price working within that. Now, it is common to see a price come up like this and to flag itself upwards. That's a very common characteristic, okay? So it could very well break to the upside here soon. Tomorrow, I think we'll likely see that happen, either a definitive direction one way or the other. Okay. No guarantees it's going to move up, but patterns have a tendency of repeating themselves, and certain patterns are more likely to happen. So if you go based on patterns alone, that could very well be a likelihood. We can also see the price kind of trending above the 50-day simple moving average. So the 4-hour isn't in bad shape at all. Like, we're looking pretty decent for this transitionary potential to the upside. So keep that in mind. Just note, we are still making lower highs and lower lows. Until we break that pattern, it's going to continue. All right, so until we can get back up above, just say a closure on the 4-hour candlestick, no less than 23,600, then we're going to essentially continue to make lower highs. All right, same thing applies as well, the inverse here for lower lows. If this next low is lower, then we're going to obviously be continuing our downtrend to 21.6. So again, I know it seems pretty obvious, like duh, of course it's going to continue until it doesn't, but that's just the way that trends work, and trend lines are really helpful in that sense, helping us identify if things are, if patterns are changing, okay? Because again, the average price, the average value of coins consistently evolving, and tomorrow, 24,000 could be the new average, or 20,000, right? It just depends on what people's perspective are at that time. And that's why relative strength index and things of that matter factor in, because they kind of tell us if things are oversold or overbought over the last 14-day period or 14 candlestick period. All right, so let's take a look at the RSI. In fact, so we did dip down below 50, but we're back up above. So when it starts to do that kind of up above and down below on 50 on the RSI on the 4-hour, it really doesn't tell us a tremendous amount. It kind of tells us that it's just kind of averaging itself out, so to speak. So for lack of better terms, I'm not super convinced that that's a positive. I do like that the convergence here on the MACD is soon to hit. It could hit, of course, depending on this trend line. If this trend line does reject and the price comes down, obviously we would miss that. But this is notoriously a good sign telling us that a long position might be viable at this point. But once again, you never take a trade based on the 4-hour MACD convergence, even though it's a strong indicator. It still doesn't give us that definitive direction. And what I mean by that is we haven't broken this descending trend. Until we do, we kind of got to remain patient. And I get a lot of members asking, hey, when's the next signal? When are we going to take another trade? Well, I mean, I can't tell you what that is, because I need to wait for what I see as a good entry. And I don't really see a fantastic entry point here right now. While it does look like it wants to break to the upside on the 4-hour for the MACD, let's see what the cloud tells us here too, because this is a confirming indicator that I like to look at. And first of all, we're not above the cloud just yet. We are in the cloud. Commonly, when you're inside of the cloud, it's a no-buy zone. And what do you know? This cloud is kind of following this trend line here, right? So in that sense, it's kind of just telling us that we are still below that key level resistance. Till we break above here, we're not going to want to take a trade. Now, you could say or argue the fact that, hey, it looks like it's going to break out right now. Why not take a trade? Well, that would be a false positive. In other words, if you were to take a trade here, sure, you would have got a little bit of profit, but the price turned right back around. And that's a pretty common characteristic when the price comes up above the cloud. It can commonly reject and turn right around within an hour or two. So I like to wait for maybe just say 2, 3, almost 4 hours at least for the price to stay above the cloud, giving us that confirmation. All right, good news is conversion line's above the baseline here, and lagging span is free and clear as price action, but it soon intersect if the price goes nowhere, right? If the price continues sideways, it'll just hit the reset button and likely continue lower. So again, small handful of little things that kind of all factor in. I like where we're at here so far. We're getting close to breaking through the cloud, but we're not quite there yet. Again, we're not there yet either on the 4-hour MACD convergence. It hasn't officially converged yet. That's why these trend lines are important. So make sure that you utilize trend lines to the best of your knowledge. Don't just start drawing crazy lines, but the key here is that it's establishing lower highs and lower lows, and until it breaks that pattern, then we're in a position where we can expect it to continue. So that being said, just say, for example, the price does break above the cloud, that would effectively be putting us at, it still wouldn't be putting us at a higher high, okay? So you just got to keep that in mind, but it would effectively be kind of shifting the momentum there and still be making higher lows, right? So again, mostly positive here in that sense. It does look like Bitcoin is shaping up for a potential break above this descending trend, and if so, depending on where it goes from there, we could very well see an increase from here. Okay, this could definitely be a type of pattern that's forming. Either you could argue pennant or flag, but for the most part, a continuation to the upside would make sense if we can break this trend. Right? Again, hypothetical for sure. But for the moment, that is where we're at. Again, this is weekend behavior. Do not get super excited about this potential push to the upside. get excited if we see that push continue Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That is when we want to get excited. Monday through Friday, effectively, when the traditional markets are open, is when we should be, content with those results. For right now, low volume doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. The price is moving up faster than it should because there's no resistance, nothing kind of trying to push it back down. Just folks like you and I, the layman, investing in Bitcoin, which is perfectly fine. Dollar cost average, definitely. I've been DCAing every single day. But on the same accord, it's one of those things where you just kind of got to be careful and cautious and wait for confirmation. That's my thing. I hope that you understand that. So anyways, that is kind of where we're at. Nothing else really to note. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you learned a lot here today. Obviously more to come tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be an exciting day. And then Tuesday, I think we have Fed meeting. So bear that in mind. Tuesday and Wednesday, I believe, is the Fed meeting. So you want to be aware and cautiously optimistic there as well, because there's a lot of manipulation and sharp increases and spikes or decreases, of course, too, that occur during that time frame. We'll cover that again soon. All right, well, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me here. If you want to become a better trader, once again, CryptoCache.tech is the site. Link in the description below. Have yourself a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.